You, like many other SREs, want to progress into a more senior role in the future. And this is a natural desire. It's known as career progression. Being successful with your career progression in SRE means that you are constantly growing. And this is no different really from anyone else in their career. And that's why I wanted to share some insights from what I've learned. And I've learned quite a bit, from helping other people develop their careers in fields other than SRE, including software engineering, product management, sales, and even in the healthcare space with clinicians. There are so many things that I've picked up from helping all these kinds of people in all these various areas that I think I can help you a little bit with your career progression in the SRE space, because that's the space that I'm really interested in. And that's what I'm hoping to give you from all of this advice. There are 3 lesser-known truths about SRE career progression, because people in the space rarely talk about career progression openly. There are just some of these things that some successful SREs will tell you are not necessary for your progression, and I don't want you to fall into the trap of thinking that that might be the case, because a lot of these SREs forget to check their privilege at the door, their success, maybe because of it just coming naturally. And if you're not already where you want to be in your career, because growth hasn't happened naturally for you, like it may have for them, keep watching. Because I'm going to give you some practical advice for the rest of us who want to work on our progression. So I'll break my analysis of these 3 truths I mentioned into a 3-part series. You will get the first truth in this video, and then we'll explore the others in another video. But first, I want to give you a breakdown of what I will explore in later parts of the series. What's going to come up? I will give you advice on how to plan your SRE career progression. And here's a hint. You should actually be doing this. Actually planning your career progression. I'll give you some links to progression frameworks from 2 well-known companies, which actually you could Google right now if you want. Dropbox and GitLab. And then I'll give you a simple, ridiculously simple 8-step process that I've used to help turn very green individual contributors into people who become very knowledgeable technical contributors in their field. So let's get started with what is career progression. The whole idea behind it is that your current job is only the starting point. You'll be working towards higher levels of pay, but that also means you're going to have to do something extra to get that pay. And that means there's going to be an increasing complexity in your role. The best way to describe it is that you will manifest this through better technical abilities, which would make sense to pretty much every engineer. But you will also have to develop better non-technical abilities. Now, here's a funny thing. Progression can actually happen without advancing in either of these 2 areas, the technical and non-technical arenas. You've probably seen people pull it off through office politics. You know, the kind of work that requires a skill in the dark arts of brown-nosing, throwing colleagues under the bus, and winning at favoritism. If that kind of work is not your forte, like it hasn't ever been for me, you better keep listening. Because I think the path that I've helped people find is a lot more enjoyable for them too. Moving onward and forward, the tech industry has broken career progression down into 2 distinct tracks. The first is technical leadership, and the second is people leadership. Most SREs I know are interested in the former, that is, technical leadership. The ones I've spoken with typically are not aiming to become people leaders. They want to one day become a principal SRE. So that's where I will try and focus my attention, wherever I can, in giving you advice in regards to career progression. Now, technical leadership implies that you become increasingly more responsible for broader and more strategic technical work. It requires not only acquiring technical skills, but also being able to see a system more broadly. You have to see it as a marriage of people, process, and technology. These 3 things need to be working in unison. So it's really a marriage of these 3 things. Now, the best way for me to describe this kind of technical leadership is when in another time I will describe how junior SREs think versus more senior SREs. Like, what is the difference between how they see their work and how they see systems? By the way, people leadership is a beast of its own. For a lot of thought leaders, this is the space they're in, and it is an amazing thing. They do amazing work in it. They help develop amazing engineering leaders, managers. So if that's your thing, pay attention to that. You might learn a thing or two, and you might actually want to become a people leader after all. But it's kind of beyond the scope of what I'm going to be exploring here. Now, let's address one of the unspoken truths. We'll look at the rest another time. Truth number one is you don't get promotions with tenure. Let me repeat that. You don't get promotions with tenure. By that, I mean you don't just get a promotion because you've been at a company for X number of years. And I keep telling this to people. I have friends who say, hey, I've been at this company for 5 years and I haven't received a promotion. What's with that? Well, I tell them the company is not obliged to give you a promotion. Unfortunately, as it may be, just because you've been there for 5 years, it's a lot of time and energy that you've put in, but they're not obliged to do that if they don't feel that you are working on things that would require them to support your career progression. Sure, there was a time when people just used to get promotions based on their length of service to a company, but that goes way back. It goes back to a time when you had to play a lot of office politics. I know absolutely no organization that these days gives more senior roles to SREs just because of their tenure, rather than something like merit or competence or good old brown nosing. Have you heard of the Peter Principle? The Peter Principle suggests that individuals are often promoted to positions of high responsibility until they reach a level where they are no longer competent or effective in their roles. Promotions based on tenure alone can overlook one absolutely critical factor, and that is whether an SRE has actually acquired the skills and qualities to excel in a more advanced position. More importantly, have they even tried with their abilities? Getting promoted just with tenure can make you feel overwhelmed. You can develop imposter syndrome and eventually burn out because you have to continue a charade of competence. If you've been working in a place for X number of years and you haven't really developed your abilities, you're going to get all of these things. You can feel overwhelmed. You're going to get imposter syndrome and eventually burn out. Oh, we don't want that, do we? Let me ask you a question. It's a bit of a confronting question. So you and I can agree that you're not a sociopath, right? You want to keep a good relationship with your coworkers. Be fair to them and let your work show your merit, right? In that case, working on your skills and abilities is the most effective way to attain career progression. Career progression that you can handle. None of this Peter Principle business for you.